in today's video, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the new Kylie Kyshadow bronze palette and the infamous Morphe 35O. This is a palette that I have loved. I'm really into warm shades, and this palette has practically every warm shade in the book. This Kylie Kyshadow palette, which I also really love, it has 9 shades. I did a review on this, which I will link below, and I will put in the suggestion thing right here. Definitely love this palette as well. I'm going to show you guys a look that I did, a really quick look just to show you guys how the colors blend, how the shades look on my skin tone, and this is the look that I got. This is the Kylie Kyshadow palette. This is the Morphe 35O palette. I also did swatches. Yeah, so if you guys want to see a comparison between these two products, then just keep on watching. So first I'm going to show you guys the look that I did, then I will tell you guys what I think of the shadows.
Sitting right here and I'm thinking about you. You've been drinking all night, 18 years old. Now you got another man you're choosing, but I heard you. Sitting right here and I'm thinking about you. You've been drinking all night, 18 years old. Now you got another man you're choosing, but I heard you out just like those lines. So what you proving? Moving.
While doing my makeup is that the Kylie Kyshadow palette is definitely more pigmented than the Morphe 35O, but that doesn't mean that the Morphe 35O is a bad palette. I'm going to get into that in a second. The Kyshadow palette, the bronze palette, these colors are just more pigmented. They also feel creamier, so when I was putting them on my eyelid, they felt really creamy and smooth and buttery. One thing that I found while doing this look was that the Morphe 35O shadows are more blendable. It's possible that the Kyshadow palette is just more pigmented, so when I put the eyeshadow on, it looks like there's more, so then therefore it takes more time for me to blend. And then when I put the Morphe 35O, it didn't look as pigmented, so it was easier for me to blend. If that makes sense, I'm not sure, but overall the Morphe 35O was just easier to blend. But again, as I said earlier, the Kyshadows were a lot more pigmented. If you are into blending, if you're willing to spend the time to blend, then I would say go for this palette. It's much more pigmented, but it takes a little bit more time to blend, whereas the Morphe 35O is not as pigmented and it takes less time to blend. This is really confusing me. Okay, and I'm sorry if there's a fly flying around. Oh no. So now into the swatches, and this is probably the most important part of the video because this will show you guys if the Morphe 35O is really a good dupe for the Kyshadow palette. Now, when I was swatching them, I definitely noticed that there were some Morphe shadows that were similarly pigmented to the Kyshadows, but overall the Kyshadows, the matte shades at least, were a lot more pigmented than the Morphe shadows. One thing that is awesome though with these two palettes is that in terms of the matte shades, the Morphe 35O palette has practically every single matte shadow that the Kylie palette has, the Morphe palette has. So they both have the same matte shadows and they're almost identical. In fact, they're pretty much identical in shade. The only one that was not in the Morphe 35O that was in the Kylie palette was the black shade, and that is Obsidian. This black shade is not in the Morphe 35O palette. Now going into the shimmer shades, the Kylie Kyshadow palette has 2 shimmer shades. It has the shade Quartz and Goldstone. Quartz is this really pretty light gold shimmer shade, and then Goldstone is this similarly really pretty goldish shimmer shade. This is more gold than quartz, obviously. And one thing that I freaking love about these is that when you're applying them, there's not that much fallout. And I hate it when I have a shimmer shade and there's fallout. But with these two shimmer shades in the Kylie Kyshadow palette, there is not as much fallout. And one downside to the Morphe 35O palette, if you're looking for a dupe for the Kylie Kyshadow palette, is that there are not exact dupes of the shimmer shades from the Kylie Kyshadow palette. There are numerous shimmer shades in this palette, which is a plus in comparison to the Kylie Kyshadow palette. The only problem is that there are not exact dupes for the shimmer shades in the Kyshadow palette. But there are shades that you can mix together to make the Kylie Kyshadow palette, but not the same. And also the Morphe 35O shimmer shades, a lot of them have fallout. If you're applying matte eyeshadow on your eyes and you have fallout, it's easy to rub it off because matte, it's not shimmery, so when you rub it off there might be residue, but you will easily be able to cover it up with concealer or whatever. But when you're doing a shimmer shade, shimmery pigment, that shimmerness, it tends to bleed through concealer, and so when you get fallout, you can see it. So that's a downside for this palette. Now I'm going to give you guys the overall review of both of these together. Of course, there are only 9 shades in the Kylie Kyshadow palette, and there are 35 shadows in the Morphe 35O palette. With that said, that of course gives Morphe an advantage over the Kyshadow palette because you're just going to have more versatility with this palette because there's just more shades, and it is less expensive than the Kyshadow palette. But on the other hand, I do think that if you are really into makeup, if you're a makeup guru, if you have all the palettes, if you just love eyeshadows, you love quality eyeshadows, I would say if you already have this in your collection, it's worth it to buy this. If you are really into makeup and you already have this palette, you already have the Morphe 35O, I would say purchase the Kyshadow palette because there are some shimmer shades in this palette that are not in the Morphe 35O, and the shadows are a lot more pigmented than the Morphe 35O. If you are sort of into makeup, not really, if you just like to mess around with makeup, you know, you just like to wear makeup when you go out, you don't wear it every day, you're not that much into it, then I would just say go with the Morphe 35O. Honestly, the difference is there, but it is not such a contrast where it's like comparing an LA girl shadow to this. It's not that much of a difference, but it is there. It's not worth the extra $20 to get this if you are not as into makeup. I am really into makeup. I may not be that good at it, but I am really into it. I think personally for me it was worth it to have these two palettes. I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Give it a thumbs up if it was. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm posting a lot more videos now, and I will talk to you guys next time.
Sitting right here and I'm thinking about you. You've been drinking all